in the interest of everyone's time in summer, I'd love to get started. Thank you guys for being here. We have quite a bit to talk about this evening. So I'm very much looking forward to some good, robust conversation. Before we get to the minutes, I do believe we have to take roll. But before we do that, because Andrea is not here, I'd like to ask someone to help us with minutes for this evening's meeting, in case Andrea is not able to make it.
How about if I take minutes?
Ooh, okay, Matt. All right. I like that move.
All right.
You sure about that?
Sure, why not?
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Gee.
Rob, Andrea should be coming. She couldn't find the link. I just sent it to her.
Okay, that's perfect. So we'll get started, and then once he hops in, we'll be good to go. So let's do some roll. I'm gonna go basically just who's on my screen here. So you here? All right, and G. Great, and Kristen.
Here.
Thank you, and Rose.
Here.
Thank you. Awesome. And I think, and I'm here as well. So there we go. There's our quorum. Great. Thank you guys. I'd like to review the last meeting minutes, and we sent those out a few days ago. I hope people have had an opportunity to look through those. And so I'd love for a motion to approve those minutes, please.
Actually, Rob.
Yes,
Rob, I would love to just propose one insertion in under number 2, CPS and Metco conversation. Okay. Because there was, I think, a little bit of back and forth on the tone that our response would take. And I propose to summarize what was my position in the last meeting. I just wrote down a long sentence, but it's, I propose a member of the commission reiterated the importance of preserving the commission's capacity to mediate between opposing groups to further DEI objectives in our town, and expressed concern that endorsing the demands of the Metco Collective in their entirety would only duplicate efforts of existing groups, compromise the commission's role as a mediator, and not help to move the ball forward for DEI in Concord.
Okay. Great. Thanks for that inclusion, Is there any other discussion?
Could you send me that text and I will put it in minutes for the update of the.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, because what we now should do is who has the last minutes, and Andrea, do you have them?
Andrea does, yes.
So yeah, so if you could send an email to myself and Andrea, then she can modify the minutes and then send them to the town clerk.
Yes.
With that change.
I will.
We can.
They are just sent.
We can still approve the minutes as amended, though, can't we?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so let's move on that. Can I get a motion for that, please? All right. Thank you,
Yes.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Any is there any further discussion or amendments to the minutes? Great. Awesome. So let's I'm going to go person by person for their response. So we'll go with Approved?
Approved, yes, thanks.
Great. G?
Approved.
Thank you. Kristen?
Yes.
Rose?
Approved.
Thank you. And Andrea?
Approved.
Thanks, Andrea. Awesome. Yes, for me as well. And so those would be approved as amended. Thank you guys for that. Okay, let's jump into this. So at our last meeting, we talked about writing a letter to the school board representing the commission's views. And Andrea was kind enough to draft that letter. And I know there were some, we were able to send it out and as in draft form. And what I'd love to do is spend time talking through that letter and get people's thoughts on it. And, the hope is by the end of this meeting, we have a letter that we feel comfortable with sharing on behalf of the DEI Commission. And so I'd love to open it up and see if folks have any questions or thoughts about that. Andrea,
Well, should I share it on my screen?
I'm happy if that's helpful to people. I'd be happy to do that. I think it was in, it did get circulated, so hopefully people have had an opportunity to look at it. But would it be helpful for folks if it was shared on the screen?
I would just like to say that I sent out the first draft and received feedback individually from the different members of the commission, and I integrated that feedback and a new version with the edits. So that was the process of the changes, and so we have like an updated draft.
And that was since it
wanna
was
let you
sent
know
out.
that- I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That was since
Yes.
it was sent out. Okay, sure.
I'd just like to let you know that it does include, like the edits, because I received different edits and comments. I tried to harmonize all of them, so it's not, like the exact suggestions, but I did get, like the everything I could, considering it's a bunch of us.
Yeah. Andrea, I do wonder if you wouldn't mind talking us through some of those changes in the letter, and I think sharing the screen, if you have that capacity to do it, might be helpful to us. I'm not sure if she's got the power for that. Hopefully.
Yeah, give me a second. Let me see if I can share it. Okay. So I did leave something that's highlighted. And that's the only one question that I do have for all of you. I added this one. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Before getting into, like the issues that we're gonna discuss in the letter, I added this by suggestion of Kristen about us.
Yeah.
And I'm just not sure about what the objective of the letter is, if it's to add our thoughts on the important issue, or if you wanna be a little bit more direct. Is it to urge them to act? Is it to just add our thoughts? I wasn't sure about, so I wanted to consult with all of you. Should I read it out loud?
I don't know necessarily if you want to read it, but maybe if there are key changes that were made that we may not have read through, you might shed some light on those.
Yes, well, basically, I think the biggest one was to acknowledge the different actions that the school committee has done. And they're right here. This is the biggest, I guess, part that was added to the letter. And then we do urge them, right? We say, nevertheless, this is what we want. And there was also, I think, the suggestion to add to the tone that we're happy to help them do it and to see it through along with them. So that's mainly, like the two biggest changes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be, I believe that's the two biggest changes. Also, we did add, it's not only the Concord Medco, but also these two groups that were added that I had not considered from the beginning in the text. So that was added. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's it.
No,
That's the main issues.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Andrea. And I'm very appreciative of the inclusion of the non-MECO BIPOC students and certainly the LGBTQ plus community. I think as much as this is concentrated in a lot of ways with the MECO demographic, there's certainly, from what we understand to be other sorts of distress and pain felt by other non-centered marginalized communities. So I'm grateful for that inclusion. Before we jump, actually, do you mind scrolling back up to the top there, Andrea, please? I agree that I think it's important for us in this first sentence to be very clear about the purpose of this letter. And so I'd love to open it up and get people's thoughts on how we might want to frame this purpose. If it's simply to add our thoughts to an important issue and to make it known that we're acknowledging this conversation, I think that's one thing. But if we are urging or demanding change or something more forceful, we'd want to highlight that here. So I'm curious what people's thoughts are.
Yes, I don't have additional thoughts. That was my, I think, suggestion, was at least saying, you know, who we are to be sending this letter. But I agree, I didn't exactly know what the position was. So, but I mean, I think it's saying, by the authority of this commission, this is why we want you to hear the following thoughts. But yes, I'm very curious what other folks on the commission think about capturing that purpose here.
Yeah, please.
First of all, I want to thank Andrea for putting together this letter. It was no, small feat to sort of, bring together a lot of different points. I think for me, I think one possible position to take with this letter might be, personally, I'd like, to indicate that as a commission, we are committed to supporting a diverse, equitable, and inclusive environment, and that we want to remain engaged and make sure that the steps that the school have taken and are taking are actually meaningful and not just, checking the box. So I think, while I want to acknowledge and, be supportive of efforts that they have made, I think as a commission, it's useful for us to stay engaged just to make sure that they're actually meaningful and effective. And I think there's a line that alludes to that in the second paragraph. And maybe that can, if you're looking for a point or a sort of a perspective up front, maybe that can be worked in earlier.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm looking at that last sentence there in the second paragraph where it says we look forward to remaining engaged. If that's the direction we want to go, we might want to underscore that in that first sentence, right? We write this letter to add our thoughts to this important issue and to affirm, our strong desire to stay engaged in this conversation with you guys, so that they know we'd like, as a commission, we'd like to be a partner here. Potentially. That's a good point. From other commission members, are there any thoughts about kind of the tenor of at least this opening part of the letter?
Let me know if this would work.
Okay.
Sorry.
I want to just share really quickly, and I totally agree, Andrea. Thank you for putting time and effort into putting something that put this together. And I very much agree with what Kristen and Ha shared. As a new commission, I think our goal is to collaborate with school committee and MECO, and so school committee, already highlighted over here, have done the most things in the recent years. So these are all very plausible. But I very agree with Ha that as a commission, we'd like to stay engaged and to see what kind of things we can support to bring our community to a more diverse, inclusive community. I think our goal is the same.
Yeah. Thank you, G. I wonder if, in terms of saying we want to remain engaged, would it be helpful to name what that looks like, right? Because I think a a lot of people say, yeah, I look forward to remaining engaged, and there's not a shared understanding of what that means, but rather, I wonder if, for example, part of that engagement would be to invite, I know we have rep from the school board here, but to invite a meeting between, the DEI commission, that's the education subcommittee, with the school board or with other representatives or something like that. I wonder if we spell it out, that allows them to think about, okay, maybe this is the right type of direction we want to go with this partnership, or maybe they come back with saying, actually, this is our proposal for your engagement, and we can go back and forth on that. I don't know if folks have thoughts on that. But I wonder if this is our letter, if we can spell that out a little bit more. Yeah, and Andrea, I do like that. I do like that those few words there about affirming our engagement there. I think that's great. That's spot on. Rose, I'm curious about, I don't want to mean to call you up, but I am curious about your thoughts. You've been championing this for some time and bearing the burden of this as a citizen. And I'm curious what your thoughts might be around the rhetoric here.
I'm thinking, can we just extend our support and our collective efforts to advance, and kind of quote some of the language that was previously stated around advancing our collective efforts to creating, and whether it be a community where, everyone feels like they belong, or an equitable community for all, but just being explicit about, we are extending our support and we are extending our collective efforts to want to advance these matters together.
Yeah. I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Rose, could you repeat that? Just
yeah. So I said extend our support in advancing our collective efforts. So I would take out add our thoughts.
Yep.
I would take out add our thoughts, Andrea. Our support in advancing our collective efforts. And I think we could say something like, in building community or creating a community, and we can, maybe wordsmith on this. You could say where we each belong.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I wonder if we can say, and to affirm the commission's engagement to this important issue.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Thank you, Rose.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
So Rob, I wasn't just being silent when you asked what that engagement looks like. I was truly thinking, and I think part of the reason why I was silent, because I think that there is, it's a complicated effort.
Yeah.
For all of these groups, and I think they are still trying to sort out how they are going to communicate. I know there's an issue. I think in the last superintendent's letter to the Metco family, there was some discussion around how the school would communicate with the Metco collective. So there's not necessarily an existing, it feels like there's some processes that are still in flux. So my sense in speaking, one-on-one with, just as a parent, with some members of DEI in the school committee, they are really kind of, there is very limited bandwidth to add new conversations.
I see.
So if there's a chance for us to join in on conversations, if there is a school committee meeting, I think, it's worth making sure that one of our commission members shows up. Yep. And can voice support and that kind of thing. But I think it might be a little tricky now to sort of specify what that engagement looks like when the communication channels are not clear in general.
That makes sense. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. So I think with that, I think leaving it kind of as this open invitation to that affirms our commitment to this and our engagement, that might suffice here.
Okay.
Um,
Or at a minimum, we can say, we want to commit to having a commission member
Hmm.
represent at each school board meeting, or, if there are, I don't know if the Metco advisory group is open to the public, or if it's, does anyone know that?
Yeah, so a couple of things. There's a lot of concern over the name of that group, the Superintendent's Metco Advisory Group. So I would just be mindful and elevating that as quoted by the district,
Okay.
because I think families want to not serve as advisors in this effort. They want to be collaborators and partners. And so while it's been sort of termed and named as Superintendent's Metco Advisory Group, I think they're really seeking to be, not an advisory group. So that's one piece. There has been advocacy by families of color to have that meeting be open to the public. However, my understanding to date is that only a select few have been invited. And while the DEI subcommittee has been dissolved, there is another DEI group that has been developed. So that could certainly be an avenue where we had representation from the commission, because that is a cross section of the community that is currently represented on that DEI group led by Andrew Michi. So that would be an avenue to engage. And I do think they're just saying that we wish to be engaged as part of these collective efforts around this, and including, Kristen, do you know what the official name of that committee is called?
Of Andrews?
Yeah, Andrews.
I think it's the DEI Strategic Planning Committee.
mhm. Okay.
Right, so we could name that as a potential avenue to engage
Okay.
as a commission.
Or maybe it's enough for this letter just to say we want to remain engaged in the conversation. And
I think so. I think so, Ha, because whatever we manage to do after that, get ourselves into the meeting or whatever we can do, I don't think it should go on the letter.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Not on this one first, attempt to
I would suggest rephrasing the Metco Superintendent's Advisory Group, and you could say like the recently formed group by the superintendent or something like that, involving Metco families. I would just, in an effort to respect how people wish to be recognized and honored, I would just kind of frame it in that manner.
Great.
And I did like that you brought up that we kind of want to see meaningful change here. And I want to make sure kind of the letter does that, because it's basically saying we'd like to help hold all of us accountable, including, so I liked that. And I don't know that that's been captured yet. I'll have to look through it again, but.
I'm sorry, Rose, can you point out where you want that change?
Yeah, so second paragraph, second line, right after DEI's director's position, it says a Metco Superintendent Advisory Group.
Yes.
I would say recently formed group by the superintendent's office or by the superintendent involving Metco families.
Group.
Kristen, I think what I said might be summarized in the last sentence of the second paragraph, which ends, We look forward to remaining engaged with the district and school committee to ensure that these steps are implemented in a way that is meaningful to Metco and BIPOC colored families and students.
Okay.
It's a long letter, so I know it's kind of, maybe
Yeah.
we want to put that in the opening or close. But I think it is in there.
Yeah, Andrea, you did a great job of kind of weaving in all the edits. So, because I'm sure they were all over the place. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. So this letter feels great, and I'm really grateful to you, Andrea. I know we all are, for putting this together in a pretty tight timeline. And I think that'll be really helpful for not just the school, but the community to understand where we stand on this matter and how we can be supportive of it. I'm curious to know, so we finalized this letter, where are the best places to post this letter? Because that's I guess that would be the next step. And I'm curious, we want this to get out to the major stakeholders here and to the community. Where do we post it? I realize we haven't talked about that yet. So yes, please.
Rob, I believe the letters of this sort, in addition to being sent to the school committee members, I believe on the website, there's a space for our documents. And so this would be posted there. It would require that people who are interested go to the DEI page on the town website.
Yeah.
But I think those are that's where I had envisioned this letter living.
Awesome. I think that's great. And I'm also curious, are there other outlets that we would feel this letter needs to get out to as well, to maybe expand the scope of the folks who are able to see it?
We could, send it to the local papers, which are the Carlisle Mosquito and then the Concord Town paper. And I think a purpose that might serve is to say, people for saying, wait, there is a DEI commission.
Yeah.
I think continuing to raise awareness about that is important.
Absolutely.
That's a great idea, Kristen. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to suggest one more edit, Andrea, just really quick. I think one of the lower paragraphs where it says, we hope that the school committee will move forward by removing barriers to learning. And after comma, I would just also put sharing. And then proceedings with the rest, because I think there has been barriers to being able to share openly.
Great. Thank you, Rose. Cynthia, yeah, please.
Just one suggestion is you send it to both committees, the regional and the Concord School Committee.
Okay, thank you.
Then I think the Mosquito might be much more willing to accept your letter. They kind of sometimes they get strict about it being Carlisle business.
Yep.
With that addition, I think, and you're clearly not focused just on the Concord Public Schools, but on Concord Carlisle.
Okay. Thank you, Cynthia.
Yep.
That's great. So I think, once we're able to, this will be posted to the DEI website. I think I do want to make sure that we have earmarked people to send it to certain places so that doesn't get lost in the summer that the busy summer that everyone has. And so as kind of I think if this commission's okay, Ha and I are more than happy to make sure this letter gets out to both the regional and the Concord outlets and go from there. But Matt, yeah.
So I also think a typical thing that you would do with something like this is put a link to the letter on the town website at the page for the commission. So you have a dedicated page, that is announcing who the members are and, gives a link to minutes and so forth. But a lot of times, these committees have other background documents, so you'd have the charge, that kind of stuff. But in addition, like something like this, you probably want to keep as an artifact, of the work you've done. So
Yeah.
that's a recommendation I'd make that probably town staff could implement. once.
I think that's what Ha was alluding to, perhaps, maybe, or maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I realize that
I
doesn't
think so.
like really push it out there so much, but I think it is an additional thing that you should do just to
Great.
make sure it stays, because otherwise it will go just fly right past people. Like you said, and they may or may not notice it.
Good. No, we'll make sure to do that. Thank you. That's-
Robert,
Yes, please.
I have a question about the format.
Mhm.
I added, where is it? Right here. This, the Concord School Committee up here, because I wasn't sure if we, can you guys advise? as
Yeah, I think
to
you should have the
what
commission up there. I mean, I don't know that you have an
Yeah.
official letterhead, but
Should we make one, or do commissions usually add like the Concord's town something, like the logo? Do we have anything that we can use to make it a little bit more formal?
That sounds like
would be
a
my
good
first
question. I mean, you are a dutifully, organized body by the town. So it may be the case you could do that. I'll take that as an action item.
Okay,
Well-
thank you. That would be my first question. I have a couple more. How do we sign it? The commission, like the DEI commission, or with our names, or with both? How does it usually happen? What's typical?
We've got some recent examples of this type of letter. I should just dig those up and
Thank
see if there's a convention. Yeah.
Okay,
And related to that, I know this is more of a letter than a memo, but if you wanted to do it in memo format, then you have that this is who it's to, this is who it's from, this is the date. These are, who else is getting copies of it,
right.
if that's a more straightforward format for this.
Yeah, Kristen, that's not a bad idea. I like that idea quite a bit. So what if we, that's an easy, I think that's an easy enough edit to make, Andrea. I'm happy to take that on. And Matt, if you do find templates or some sort of convention out there that folks are using, we could adopt that as well.
Yeah, and I think that these are relatively minor points. It's really the content that's the key thing. Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah. Awesome. This is great. Yeah, Andrea, sorry.
So do we have a final draft? Do we have to vote on it, or how?
I would suggest that you vote to send the letter as amended.
Okay. Let's get a
And if
motion.
there's any sort of additional stuff, I mean, I don't think you have to vote about if you could putting a letter out or anything. It's really more a question of, is the language final, or is there any still to-dos on it?
Okay. So I felt that was a really good conversation. We made some good changes. So I'm gonna ask for a motion to, after we're able to make the small format edits, can I get a motion to send this thing out?
I move that we send the letter as amended
Great.
as soon as we're able.
Yes. Could I get a second?
Second.
Any last minute discussion on this? Good, I like that. All right, so I'll go around the horn again. Andrea, you up first?
Yes.
Thank you. Rose?
Yes.
Yes.
And G?
Yes.
Yes for me as well. All right. Thank you, everybody, for that's a lot of work. And really, it really feels good. And so we'll keep this moving, and we'll get this out as soon as possible. So thank you all. I do want to move on to our next agenda item, which is about a possible and hopeful co-sponsorship opportunity with the League of Women Voters. There's a speaker series that they are launching this fall, looking at the community in Concord and Carlisle through a DEI lens, past, present, and future. So far, they have the Concord Carlisle Adult and Continuing Education, Robbins House, the League, Friends of the Library, and the Human Rights Council of Concord and Carlisle as co-sponsors, and they have asked us to consider co-sponsoring this effort as well. But I wonder, Anne, if you have any other thoughts on the series. I know you guys have had a lot of meetings and getting it going.
Yeah.
What did I miss?
Well, it's 3 nights of more focused themes. The first night is Concord Carlisle past, getting some history down from different perspectives, Indigenous, enslaved and free people. And then the second one is going to be about education in the towns of Concord, Carlisle. And then the third one is going to be about land use and zoning. And then the fourth one will be a wrap-up conversation, which will be facilitated with participants coming up with where do we go from here.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be a very important one, and hopefully representatives from the commission will be a part of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. For
And we're still nailing down all of our speakers, but we're 90% there.
That's great. That's great. And one of the things I had to remind myself, and this is because my brain is full of fog, is that this speaker series is independent of the Concord Festival of Authors event
Correct.
that happens throughout the fall, which is also has opportunities. It certainly engages with DEI issues. So, you know, what's heartening to me is that throughout the fall, especially, there will be a number of different venues having conversations that are really important and advancing the work that we're doing. And I know as those events come closer, I hope to be at many of them, and I would encourage those of us on the commission to be there to support that work and that effort. So the question on the table is, as a commission, do we feel that we can support this initiative and co-sponsor it? And I guess one question I would have, Anne, is what would that entail from us?
I think if we could see you as a resource for reaching out to possible speakers, you know, if we have some holes that we have not filled yet.
Okay, great. And sorry, you had your hand up as well.
Oh, you know what? I was just going to duplicate your question. What would the sponsorship actually look like? Would it be, you know, getting the word out, publicity? Would it be, you know,
all the above?
Would it be okay? So just signing on to.
That's great. Awesome.
To help with whatever is needed.
We're doing the heavy lifting.
Okay.
That's a beautiful thing to hear. Rose, please.
Is it possible to be sent some more information on this? Because, you know, just to get an idea on dates and timeline and planning and, you know, what,
I can tell you the dates, the actual dates. September 29th is the first one. That's Concord and Carlisle history through a DEI lens. And the second one is October 13th. That is going to be about the educational systems, both private and public. And the third one is, that's October 13th. October 27th is land use, zoning and housing. And then the last one is November 10th, making Concord more welcoming community.
And is it possible to get like a current lineup of the speakers that you have secured already?
I would like to wait until we have confirmed them. We have had yeses from 90% of the people, but we want to confirm that before we go public. We're in the midst right now of doing that. And we running onto a deadline of July 1 for the catalog. So as soon as we've got it amongst ourselves, we'll share it with you.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
Please.
I have a question. You know, there are, as a new committee or commission, there are a lot of different priorities, I think, coming at us. And I wonder, and this is just a question, sort of perhaps organizational and procedural, as a commission, does it make sense for us, you know, instead of like having, you know, being specific about if we're going to engage in different events or sponsorships or efforts, to have, I mean, I don't know if it has to be a formal subcommittee, or, you know, I know for the support that Anne is asking for this event, you know, is it a format where we want to ask certain volunteers from the commission to represent the commission, as opposed to signing on and then having to sort of, you know, rally all 9 members for every initiative all the time?
Yeah. I think that's a really good question, Han. One of the things I was thinking about is, and not to say that we're going to be super popular, but I do imagine that we might be asked to co-sponsor and to host and to be collaborators on a number of different initiatives in the town, which I think is positive.
Which is great, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Race Amity Day was fantastic this past
Absolutely.
Sunday, and, you know, I would personally love to get involved in that next year.
Yeah. And I wonder, does it make sense for this commission to develop a rubric, right? To make sure that we have a rubric of questions we need to ask of every opportunity that comes our way. You know, and those are likely the questions that we've already asked. What are they looking for from a collaboration? Who are the speakers? What is the format? I think those might be, you know, maybe we just develop internally a list of 5 or 6 key questions we want to make sure are answered before we decide to jump in as a collaborator, to make sure that it fully jives with our charge and the type of work we're trying to do.
Great, that makes sense.
Okay. I think perhaps independent of this one, I'm happy to write up something very brief and share it at the next meeting, so that going forward, we do have that procedure in place so that we all feel comfortable with when stuff like this comes our way. Obviously, it's not in place now. So I guess I wonder from others on the commission, does this feel like a good co-sponsorship opportunity for us?
I think it is, particularly because I hope that part of what the commission does is kind of a bigger picture thing, is create a vision for what an inclusive Concord looks like. And it sounds like this would be a valuable place to get input into that.
Agreed.
Agreed too.
Yeah, G.
Yeah, I think this is a great initiative for us to be part of it, to partner with. And I wonder, in name of sponsorship, would it be possible for us to, I don't know if we can commit to at least one member participate or join one of those events? I know there are 4 in a row. All sound wonderful.
Yeah. I know I'll certainly be there as co-president of the Robbins House, who's also co-sponsoring it. So I hope you're there at least wearing one hat.
Yeah.
And I think Concord Academy is also going to get involved as well. So I might be wearing a nice tricorn hat at that event.
And is this in person or virtual?
It's going to be both. We want as many people to be exposed to these conversations as possible.
That's great. That's great.
Excellent.
So I guess I'll ask my question, but in a different way. Does anyone have reservations about us being co-sponsors here? Okay, that's a good thing. All right, Rose, did you have any? I want to make sure that if you have thoughts that you'd hear them, that we'd hear them.
No, I think the league has been a great community partner in the inception of this commission itself. So I think, you know, we are in alignment of values and advancing these efforts collaboratively. So I think this particular initiative, it seems like it would be worthy of helping spread the word and ensuring it's a community success for the community and sort of increasing engagement. I think just getting information. So, you know, prior to these meetings around more information around this would be helpful. I didn't know what co-sponsoring the League of Women Voters event meant. I had no context for like when it was, what it was, who was involved, what were the themes. So I think having more information on the outset in the future would be helpful.
Yeah, and your point is well taken, Rose. And if I could, I would at this point. And I think the rubric being shared with whoever comes and is your guest will be very helpful.
Mhm. Great. Thank you, Ann. Matt's got his hand up. What do you got, Matt?
I just didn't catch what the third of the 4 events was.
The third one is land use, zoning, and
Great.
housing.
Thank you.
Great. I'm not sure, Kristen, you might correct me here. I'm not sure if this is a voting item for us, if we have to vote on this. I feel like this seems like we wouldn't have to, but
It wouldn't seem to me that we had to. And it seems like everybody's on board. And I think it sounds like, Robert, are you going to be kind of a point person just by default because of your other involvement? And I guess we want to know if closer to the time, what else we can all do, or whomever can
Get
do.
the word out.
yes. So I think
That'll be the big thing.
yeah, so I think, and what would be helpful for us, especially in the ensuing months, is if, we will have standing meetings once a month for you to keep us updated on what, what you expect from us and what new updates come around. And as you guys solidify documentation and stuff like that to send it our way, we can put those into our agenda so we can make sure that folks have time before.
Well, the other thing is just keep in mind that this is going to be the information about this goes out to every household in Concord.
Great. Okay. It's good to know. Good. All right. So this is great. And I'm happy to keep working with Ann and Liz and Nancy and other folks who are going to work through this. So thank you guys very much. I want to move to the next topic and just give a couple of updates about new membership, new member conversations, and other things like that. So I think at the last meeting, I introduced Joss Lee, who is super excited about joining this commission. He has already signed his volunteer card and had conversations with me and Ha, and I believe Rose as well. And so we're hoping that he'll be ready to go and sworn in for our next meeting in July, which would be really exciting. And then, Ha, do you want to give an update? I know that you had another.
So there's a friend and woman that was at Race Amnesty Day. Her name is Aggie Lubega, and she has been a Concord resident for 11 years. She has kids initially at Alcott, and then they moved to Neshoba and Fenn, and now Middlesex. And she had expressed some interest on joining the commission on Race Amnesty Day. And so I need to follow up with her on that, because we still, I believe, have one open seat, assuming Josh takes his, which I did meet with him, and I think he'd be fantastic in this role.
And the other update in that regard is that I'm hoping to step down as co-chair of this commission just because of the other obligations I have in town. I'm incredibly dedicated to this work, and as I told Ha, we've talked at length about this. This is personal and passionate work for me. Right? I love this work, but it takes a toll. Right? It takes a toll on my family. It takes a toll on my bandwidth, and with my other obligations in town, I want to make sure that I'm doing justice to you all and your time, and also to this really important work. And so I hope I actually think I can be a better member of this commission, not as co-chair. And so what we'd like to do, I think, is between now and the next commission meeting is, seek some nominations and interest from folks who might be interested in chairing or co-chairing, and then have a vote on a new chair or co-chair for our next meeting. But I wanted to throw that out there for people and know that this has been a really fun and interesting 6 months at the formative part of this commission, and I've really enjoyed kind of leading it to the extent that I have, and really excited to keep moving with you guys through it. But I'm burnt toast right now. I got nothing in the tank. So
Thank you, Rob. We really appreciate your leadership. It's made a difference.
yeah.
So,
So I wanted to share that, and we can move forward with, you know, nominations and things like that. And if people are interested and they want to chat about what it entails, I'm more than happy to chat, grab coffee. Cafe Nero is like my second office, so always happy. So yeah, thank you. Lastly, and this is something that Kristen had introduced to us at the last meeting, which I think was going to be really powerful for us, is to develop standing meetings and to figure out when we can meet, likely on a monthly basis, for the next little bit of time. And so I know that not everyone knows what their life and their work and their family obligations look like over the next number of months, but to the extent that we can try to confirm dates, the next 3, 4, 5 dates, that would be, I think, really helpful for us and save us quite a bit of time. And so, Kristen, I guess I might ask you, in your, when you've done this in other committees, do you guys usually say, let's find a day in the second week of each month? Or how do you guys usually go about it?
So I was fortunate to join a committee, a long-standing committee that always met like probably the, you know, second Tuesday of the month or whatever. I mean, for years. And then basically, once they had the Tuesday nights, they just looked at the schedule for the year at a time. And so I think the only restrictions here would be, you know, we pick kind of the night of the week that would work best, knowing that, you know, some people are going to miss some, but we should always get a quorum because we can put it away. And then Matt, I guess the only thing we could think about are there certain either nights or weeks we should stay away from because we will have members that want to join our commission, or vice versa, that we might want to participate in a school committee meeting or something like that. So in other words, if we know that the select board meets, you know, like on these Mondays, we could choose kind of the other week Mondays, or similarly, you know, Tuesdays, because the other Tuesdays of the school committee or planning board meets, something like that. But Matt, other thoughts?
Yeah, and I really wouldn't worry too much about, I mean, I think maybe you should just look at school committee and select board. I mean, again, the pollinators committee meets at our select board meeting, and I'm the liaison, and as a consequence, I've almost never been to one of their meetings. But you know, other than like the Monday nights at you know 6:30 is when we start, so it pretty much knocks out Monday night. Then I think that the school committee meetings tend to be on Tuesdays. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Right,
So I
but they're
think if you
like every other Tuesday type thing.
Yeah, so I think if you just stay away from Mondays or, you know, Mondays or Tuesdays, or go on the off
That's what I was thinking, the
Tuesdays.
off
Yeah,
ones.
go on the off Tuesdays of the school committee. That's probably nice. And you only need to go, you know, probably once a month as a fixed schedule.
Yeah.
So and I think the school committee meetings are scheduled like many months in advance. So
No, thank you. That's really helpful. Andrea.
I need to step out for about 10 minutes. I'm not sure if our meeting is gonna last that long, but I talked to Rose about her helping me take notes for these 10 minutes that I'm gonna be away.
Okay.
oh no, I'm taking minutes
Matt's-
tonight. All
Matt-
done. Yeah,
Oh,
the minutes, yep, they're all gonna be taken care of. You joined after I agreed to take minutes.
Oh, okay. Great. Great. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Andrea.
Okay.
So I guess
see
the
you
other
later.
thing is, do we need, in terms of a date, I guess let's just pick the date and then we'll worry about it if we needed a physical location in the future.
Let's just see if we can pull up I mean, do people like this Tuesday night idea or not?
I mean, selfishly, I do, just because I used to have Tuesday night meetings, so my life is scheduled
in
around
there.
that, but that's not fair. So other people have a broader calendar.
Usually later in the week, it's better for me. Tuesdays, for work, I tend to have evening meetings on Tuesdays, and my wife also does evening meetings, and one of us would likely take care of our kids. So
How about Wednesday?
Wednesdays are good for me. Again, I'm speaking purely selfishly, but Wednesdays are better than Tuesdays for me.
Same here. Yeah, Wednesday's better. Tuesday, I've been participating in the training, so it's block of time, 7 weeks, and off couple weeks, and 7 weeks.
And Matt, I was just gonna pipe in, we're gonna try to schedule a lot of school committee workshops and things that we're not doing this summer on Tuesdays, so we might be meeting every week.
Okay,
Perfect.
then, yeah, stay away from Tuesdays. Okay.
Yeah.
So we for the time being at least lock in a Wednesday evening, and now we'd have to figure out kind of the cadence in the month. Wednesdays tend to be safer. They don't usually get whacked with holidays
True.
and things like that.
True.
It's nice. And so, but I also recognize that as we get through the fall and the winter, that sometimes later in the month with Thanksgiving and the winter holiday, that can get whacked. So I'm wondering about maybe the second week of the month seems safest to me.
I think we should just go for it. Yep. And then do it for a few months and then see what happens.
And recalibrate if we have
Yep.
to. Does that seem fair to people?
That's great.
Okay, so that would put our next meeting at, let me see if I can do math here,
July 13th.
July 13th. Yeah, that's it. Okay.
I think it's a good, it's looking good on the calendar here.
Yeah.
I
So-
mean, the town calendar. Yeah.
So let's plan for that. We'll aim for the second Wednesday of the month. Next meeting would be the 13th of July. And we'll see, like Chris said, we'll see how it goes. Oh, that makes me feel better. That's great. Thank you. And thanks for offering that suggestion, Kristen. I think that'll be really helpful for us.
And I think it'll be helpful for new members too, so that they can kind of see if that's a commitment they can make.
Yeah. Now, does this time work for people, 7 o'clock? Or is it a different time would be better? I think 7 doesn't seem to be offensive. It's not too late. It's not, I know people work sometimes till 6 or 6:30, so it may not get in the way. So does anyone have reservations about 7 o'clock? Okay. And I do know, especially in the summer, it might likely be true that we'll have to continue on Zoom because I know people travel over the summer and have different things. But again, we might want to revisit this in the fall once people are back, schools are back in session. Matt, I think I remember you saying that they've extended the, ability to
Only through July 15th so far.
really.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I
But your
thought they had
next
gone
meeting is
further.
on the 13th, so you're clear for that one.
All right, we'll go meeting by meeting then. That's
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I thought they had extended it farther. I thought we said that last meeting, but maybe I was.
no, I mean, there's stuff hanging out there. They may approve something, but they haven't yet.
It's an amendment that should be approved by the end of the year, fiscal year.
Okay.
So we'll see.
We'll see.
But
Government.
basically, oh, sorry, go ahead, Cynthia.
I said government, we gotta love it.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, hopefully we'll know by the next meeting.
You should.
We'll know whether it's a go or not.
Yeah.
And that would be for the committee itself, right? We could still
Correct.
offer hybrid for
Yeah.
participants.
Yes, that's my understanding. And I mean, even before COVID, there were limited rules for what you could do for a remote participation, but it was very painful.
It is.
So,
Very.
Oh, we look forward to that. Okay. So that's great. We've locked in July 13th, Wednesday, 7 o'clock. We'll do it over Zoom, and
Yep.
and I will make sure that we get the right Zoom link, right? Thank goodness we got it this time. We'll go through all that. So that's awesome. Thank you guys so much for helping with that. I guess at this point, I'll ask anyone on the commission, is there any new business, anything we didn't discuss that we ought to bring up for conversation? Okay. Love that. Great. And then anyone, I know in the public, I'm a big fan of having folks interject throughout the meeting, but is anything non-commissioned members want to bring up? Yes, Rebecca, please.
Thanks. Just going back to the Metco letter, I want to say, just as a random member of the public, I'm so glad you guys are doing this. I think it's so important for the town to hear your voices on this. I think it's really, really critical. And then in terms of being a member of CORE, we would probably be really interested in sending the letter out to our mailing list or posting on our website. So if you guys have like a general sense of when it might be posted, I can sort of keep an eye on the commission page, but if you can give me a time frame, maybe,
Yep.
that'd be great.
I hope to move this forward, Rebecca, by Tuesday or Wednesday of this coming week. I know Monday's a holiday, and I have attended 2 birthday parties this weekend for my girls. So I will be able to get to it Tuesday or Wednesday this week.
Okay, great.
Rebecca, could you identify your home address?
Oh, sure. It's 584 Hayward Mill Road.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Rebecca, is it okay if I send it over to Erin?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. I'll make sure it's
Okay, thanks.
awesome. Thank you. Any other thoughts from, well, anybody at this point? Okay. Yes, hi.
Hi, I'm Kelly Hebert. I just wanted to say hello and to introduce myself. I'm the interim assistant town manager. Our interim town manager, Carrie LaFleur, had asked for myself and another member of our staff, you might have met Donna earlier, to sit in and listen in on the meetings. We'll be happy to work with you and of course, Selectman Johnson, to help support you in any way. If you need anything, we're here to support you, and just wanted to thank you for each of you taking time out of your schedules to get involved and be on this committee. So really excited to see all that you are, working to do. And if there's anything we can do to support you, just let us know.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Yes, Louis.
I'm Lois Suarez, 34 Everett Street, apartment 10B. I'm a member of the Racial Justice Action Group at First Parish and the Climate Action Group, which also each has a racial bent to be aware of racial inequities, diversity and inclusion in those realms. So, and I was curious in what you were, how you'd come along on this. So and I'm a resident, and I'm actually a resident at Everett Gardens. That's the 34 Everett Street is in Everett Gardens. And several times here, they've attempted to look at more diverse hirees and also more diverse residents. And recently, they've been a little more successful than they had been over a number of years. So there's more awareness to diversity, and there's little gains being made, and some of the little ones are kind of big.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Lois. I'm always a fan of celebrating small victories. In work like this, that's not nothing, right? So
Now, I have another neighbor of color, which is like amazing because it's been very few. And even when there's been advertising in supposedly neighborhoods, but most people who are older don't want to move out of their current neighborhood, where they're comfortable, the town where they're comfortable is comfort. So thank you.
thanks, Lois. Really appreciate it. Any last thoughts, friends, before we, oh, sorry, Cynthia, please.
I just want to thank you for your Friday night work. It's amazing. I know, it all worked out. I saw your posting and I thought, okay, Friday night. But you guys did a lot of good work tonight and I appreciate it. And I look forward to continued conversation between Concord Public Schools, Concord Carlisle Regional School Committee, and the administration with your amazing group. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your partnership, Cynthia. Really appreciate it. All right, friends. Well, it's not too late. If you still are a night owl and you want to go socialize, then you got plenty of time still. I hope to be in bed within the hour. So, friends. It's great to see all of you. I look forward to seeing commission members and hopefully many of you guys on the 13th of July. Be well, enjoy the weather, stay safe.
Happy Father's Day and happy Juneteenth.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, friends. Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thank
you,
you.
Rob.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.